Welcome back to our video series on data management. In the last video, we talked about the data quality problem and its impact on businesses. We looked at the causes and the costs of bad data, and we suggested how to build a business case to improve data quality in a given area of your business. We strongly suggested that in order for your initiative to be sustainable, it needed to be folded into a data governance program. In today's video, we are assuming that your top management has given the green light to improve the quality in this area of the business. So this is the structure of today's talk about data governance when the driver is data quality. So we will start by talking about the main roles and teams in a data governance program. Then we will look at governing quality of data that is created internally. We'll look at addressing common sources of problems, how to obtain accountability for data quality, what are the main data governance processes, and then how to measure data quality improvement. Then we will turn to external data because it's becoming increasingly important in your data landscape. And finally, we will briefly review the technology that can support a data governance program that is focused on data quality. So let's start with the basic roles and organization of a data governance initiative. At a minimum, you should make sure that you have the following four constituencies. First, executive sponsorship, then a steering committee, then a data governance leader, and then a team of data stewards. The executive sponsors are in charge of vision, funding, and spreading the good word out, which is a must for a sustainable governance model. The data governance leader may have a small team that provides management and coordination of the program, overall communication and reporting, deployment of supporting technologies, and day-to-day issue management. Then the governance steering committee has a line of business managers, IT managers, and other corporate stakeholders. They should prioritize goals, coordinate efforts, allocate resources, resolve broader funding, enforce collaboration, and so on and so forth. Then we have the data stewards who work on both sides, the business and IT. They could report to either side or to the data governance team leader. They are in charge of identifying sources of data quality problems, draft data definitions, policies, and rules for improving data quality. And if they have authority to enforce them, then they are data owners. They also deal with exceptions to the rules. These various groups may be organized in different ways, all the way from centralized to decentralized with hybrid possibilities in between. All depends on the size, the maturity, and the culture of the organization. And even though we are only talking about data quality here for the moment, data governance can and should be used for other drivers of that the organization may have, such as security, privacy regulations, and data lifecycle. Let's now take a look at some recommendations on how to address the most common sources of data quality problems. Those that saw the previous video will recognize this slide that I am reusing here about the sources of data quality problems. Let's start by data creation by employees. The idea here is that you should strive to understand in detail what types of issues creates bad data. There may be technology issues, process issues, or human errors. Now, this is a very important part of the job for a data steward. They should analyze all possible data creation points for the data domain they are responsible for across all applications. Then they are also in charge of establishing data definitions, both at a business level with the right vocabulary and nomenclature, and at a technical level. And finally, policies and rules to make data capture screens be consistent with those data definitions. Let's now turn to the inconsistent definitions problem. This applies to one category of data entities you have in your organization, which appear over and over again in your business application and analytics systems. This is what's called master data. Data about customers, suppliers, employees, products, locations, etc. As master data is managed by different teams with potentially different technologies, this is where, almost by definition, the inconsistent definition problem resides. Data stewards must reach out to these teams, discuss with them, and attain consistent data definitions. Now, master data management tools is a technology that can be of help. as we will see later. Next, the mixed expectations by users problem. I'll illustrate it with an example about software product management. So let's suppose you are a product manager. You are about to launch in alpha test, and you want to get some feedback using usability testing from a representative set of users. Now you develop your own vocabulary for product areas, for tasks, and for actions that users should do in each task. You get your feedback, you adjust your product, then you launch it into GA. And then, and I have seen this happening many times, defects start coming with no mention at all to the product areas, tasks, and action that you define. So for you as a product manager, the quality of defect data is not very good. It's not up to expectations because it's very hard for you to map whatever the defect is saying to your features and your actions and your tasks, or whatever idea you had to improve the product later. Now, a data steward here could help all the way from communicating to the customer service people to use your vocabulary when asking about complaints to the end users, to improving the entry screens of the defect tracking system to surface your vocabulary, and then to the data developers that will carry over the defects with the new structure down to the analytic systems where you as a product manager will be using it. So the lesson here is that data stewards are the ones in charge of making the people using the data and the people creating the data communicate so that you don't have any problem about expectations, and that will also address the data creation problem as well. So having examined these three common sources of data quality problems and how could you deal effectively with them in a data governance program, let's talk about ultimate accountability for quality. So the role accountable for quality is called a data owner, some sort of data steward with authority. Who should these people be? Well, for quality of data created within a line of business, it seems logical that the responsibility should fall in the hands of the line of business manager or whomever he or she trusts within the unit. As we saw before, this may imply changes in the way the process is handled. So let them be creative. Let them have authority to change the process, the technology support, and the behaviors, and whatever it takes to improve the quality. At this point, let me bring a relevant example in a different domain, and that is the education system in Finland, which has been, as you may know, consistently ranked as one of the best of the world. And so their secret is that they give the teachers unfettered flexibility to teach whatever they want and however they want to teach, as long as they deliver measurable quality. The education system just trusts them to do their job. So let a data owner be like a Finnish educator. Let me finish with an example that I saw recently in a marketing department. The prospect data coming from an event or a campaign came within an Excel file, and each Excel file had its own structure and its own conventions, and as a result, the whole thing was a mess. Now, the line manager got tired with the whole thing and changed the process around a technology that produced structured and analyzable data so that the data could be qualified within marketing and entered in a CRM system before it being handed over to sales. And that changed the entire equation. So what follows is a very brief tour around the data governance processes and stages. First, the discover stage, where you find about any existing governance effort and metrics around. Then you take a look at the selected business processes, find the underlying data, and take a look at the quality of that data. You assess its quality. Then the data stewards analyze the sources of quality problem on those data sets using the kind of analysis we just showed. On the define phase, then they proceed with the definitions that should hold true on each of the domains, both at the business level and at a technical level. And then they work to define the policies, rules, standards, and procedures to keep data with the right level of quality. and some key performance indicators as to how to measure that. We will talk about those measures in a second. The third phase, the longest phase, the application phase, you would call it the development phase. You would implement or model those data definitions. You would ask IT to automate the enforcement of those policies using technology we'll review in a second. And you would also enable human workflows that mitigate exceptions to quality in this case. And the fourth phase, once you are alive, then you would measure value delivered by data governance, track compliance, and make your data assets transparent and auditable. So my last point here is about measuring data quality improvement in a data governance program. So this whole section is about quantifying your progress with data. This is what data-driven KPIs are all about. So KPI, a key performance indicator, it may be of different kinds. Data quality KPIs, and for that we need to talk about profiling, and we'll do that in a second. Then business KPIs, and in the example of the marketing department, that would be the size of the prospect pipeline. The third is your gains by having better data quality, and in this example it would be the gains due to a better productivity in being able to compute your pipeline value so much faster. That is, measured in currency, and that's something that you should strive to do because money is the name of the game here. And there are other KPIs in governance, for example, the level of engagement of your governance program, or the productivity in terms of number of defects that have been solved, and so on and so forth. Now, having a good, small, and meaningful set of KPIs is quite hard, and we recommend to be conservative, start small, experiment and iterate, and only add when you see that there is a value. And the whole idea is to keep the number as small as possible. Now let me talk a little bit about profiling. So profiling is an activity that gathers properties of existing data elements, properties such as completeness, uniqueness, value distributions, correlations, patterns. And so the whole idea is that it allows you to understand the structure and the data quality anomalies, the issues that you have within the data elements of a data set. It diagnoses data quality from a technical point of view. Now, you should be doing profiling at every single step of the way. At assessment time, that gives you realistic planning and fewer bad surprises down the road. During development time, you need to see how quality increases, and you do that with profiling, and you should be automating for better productivity so that when you deploy your solution, it's automated and you can see continuous improvement as you see new data coming along. So let us move along to the next topic, which is dealing with data created externally. Increasingly, organizations are relying on data created by others. This is the case of businesses adopting service models relying on data sent by their subscribers. Let me give you a couple of examples we know of. We recently consulted with a marketing service organization for colleges who receives hundreds of feeds from hundreds of colleges with student data they want to engage with. Let me give you another example in the telecom and media industry. We know of a content company receiving feeds from several cable companies in dozens of countries. The feeds are about which people watch which program at what time. So in this and in other examples, it becomes very hard to control, to establish governance around quality. And what suffers most is the data definition problem. It becomes very hard to force your subscribers to give you their data in your own terms with the structure you would want. And if there are many files, which is the case in these two examples, mapping manually using it like an ETL system, it just doesn't scale and becomes too hard to manage. The good news is that this is an area where machine learning can help. Schema mapping systems have been proposed for years in the academic and research circles. The principle is that you receive a data feed, and there are algorithms that compare data elements from the feed and data elements from your schema and guess what's the best correspondence and allow for human feedback when the guess is incorrect. These systems are getting used in this kind of scenarios now. So I'll briefly conclude this video by the supporting technology section, where I'll be talking about 3 categories of tools: data quality tools, master data management tools, and data governance tools. You use data quality tools at the discovery stage to profile your data. Then you define policies and standards for cleansing, deduplicating, validating, and measuring your data quality KPIs. You then implement those standards to deliver data with data quality scripts that are embeddable in a number of tools. And finally, you measure your data quality and you monitor and audit it with automated data quality profiling, as mentioned before. You use MDM technology to define models to reconcile application silos storing master data. Then the rules to map your sources to your master model and rules to cleanse and deduplicate master data. You then implement those data models, and once they are implemented, you distribute clean data to applications and data platforms. Finally, you will use data governance software to catalog relevant data assets and tag them with business vocabularies to enable search to your data citizens. You will implement then stewardship workflows such as approvals, and you can also surface data quality KPIs in a dashboard for better governance transparency. You can also implement data lineage analysis and use it after the implementation to find out and document where your data comes from. This may be required by regulators and also helps users to improve the trust in your data. Thank you very much for your attention.